In this video, I am joined by the Italiano. We are talking all about DCA. There is some updates on the Disneyland Forward website that are pretty interesting, and it points to where Disney's mindset is in regards to this Disneyland Forward initiative, where they might go first, which park, DCA, Disneyland. We're going to talk about it up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We're talking all about Disneyland Forward. We got some hints on the website as to where they might be focusing on first for this initiative. Very interesting stuff. But before we dive in, George, welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me back on. It's always a good time talking shop with you. It's a lot of juicy content is being made because of all this information that's coming out that's leading up to I think the big unveil for not even just Disneyland Forward, but I think just for Disney parks in general and the experiences around the company for D23. So it's definitely counting down for sure and getting pumped.
Yes. I think that deserves a
buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And I must say, OG, I'm really digging that Youngjin shirt you're wearing there.
You know what I'm saying? It's the Youngjin Lovers Club. You know what I'm saying? So everyone at home, you know who Youngjin is. You know who she is.
That's a mighty fine orange there.
Right. Exactly. So this tweet was from our friend, Mr. Theme Park Wizard. So this is very, very interesting. So he tweeted this out. Kind of crazy stuff. He says Disneyland Forward's website has been updated with some different wording. So now this is from the website as of 2023. Okay. It says here, with Disneyland Forward and an updated approach, these exciting new lands and attractions coming to Tokyo DisneySea could be the perfect inspiration for the future of Disneyland Park, right? So it's very Disneyland Park focused, right? That was in 2023. We don't know exactly when in 2023, but it's at least 6 months ago, right? Or at least 5 or 6 months ago. But now Disney is changing their tune. Here we go. Disney's newest land and attractions. And this is how it currently reads. With our updated approvals, Disney California Adventure Park could be home to some of Disney's most technologically advanced, immersive, and cutting-edge entertainment, taking cues from these exciting lands and attractions around the globe for inspiration for the future of Disneyland Park. Now, this is kind of interesting. It is kind of weird wording, though, because, okay, so they did mention DCA at the beginning. DCA could be home of some of the most technologically advanced, immersive, cutting-edge entertainment, right?
Right.
But then it goes on to say, taking cues from these exciting lands and attractions around the globe for inspiration for the future of Disneyland Park. So are these two separate statements, or what's going on with this? Because I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, because when I read it, I had to double read it again. I don't know if that's a misprint where if they wanted to say the Disneyland Resort, because it's basically one sentence. So Disney California Adventure Park could be home to some of the most taking cues from the exciting lands and attractions around the globe for inspiration for the future of Disneyland Park. Yeah, I think that they wanted to put like Disneyland Resort. And I think whoever wrote it kind of got lost in the translation while they were writing it, and they put Disneyland Park.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that was supposed to be Disneyland Resort, because that doesn't really make much sense the way it's currently worded. But the overall gist of this is that DCA, it looks like DCA is the focus, right? It looks like DCA is the park that's going to, at least initially, get the bulk of this stuff. And that's the right thing to do. I've been saying it for so long. I mean, Disneyland I get it. Tomorrowland's a mess. I understand that. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, Disneyland is in good shape. It's got the most rides and attractions of any Disney park on the planet. It's stacked when it comes to e-tickets. It's insane. It's crazy. They just got Galaxy's Edge, like 5 years ago, 2019, about 5 years ago.
Yep.
A reimagining of Toontown, which turned out really good. E-ticket, with Runaway Railway. I mean,
Tiana's Bayou Adventure is about to open up soon. Exactly.
We're getting Tiana's Bayou Adventure very soon. I think it's time to look towards DCA. DCA doesn't really have a whole lot. They kind of, honestly and sadly, sort of got lazy after, I think, that 2012 kind of reimagining of that park. We got new things since then, like Avengers Campus. And Avengers Campus isn't a bad thing. It's a good, seed planting land where I think the potential is there. But it's a moderate investment, And
I think Disney kind of relied on their laurels. Like once they opened Buena Vista Street and Cars Land, specifically Cars Land, along with World of Color, it was like, okay, good job, everyone. We call it a day. DCA is good, which in that moment it was. But we're going into almost 15 years now of that. It's like it definitely needs something. And as you mentioned before, they did open up Avengers Campus, but it replaced the Bugs Land. It didn't really have too much to go with it except for web slingers. They had reimagined Tower of Terror into Mission Breakout because they couldn't get the Eastern Gateway the first time, so they had to make do to put the Avengers somewhere rather than the opposite side in Hollywood Land. But I do think this is kind of interesting, even more so on the wording. The first part had mentioned just overall Disneyland expansion for Disneyland Forward, and it specifically mentioned Tokyo Disney Sea.
Yes, it did.
It said Tokyo Disney Sea could be the perfect inspiration for the future of Disneyland Park. See, so they even say it there too. I think that they mean Disneyland Resort. I think they just say park. But here, they just don't specify Tokyo Disney Sea. They say attractions around the globe for inspiration, which includes Shanghai, Hong Kong, Paris, and we got to remember the president of the Disneyland Resort, Ken Potrock, he made stops to all these places.
Yes, and we also have to really focus, I think, on Shanghai, because I think that Zootopia area is something they're really eyeballing. We did a reaction video recently for a Hey Bricky video. He kind of broke that down where he thinks that's going to be a replacement for Hollywood Land. And we both kind of agree that is probably the case. Zootopia in general as an IP feels very DCA to me. Yeah. I can't see a Zootopia in Disneyland. That doesn't feel right.
And the characters are already in DCA for meet and greets.
Right. And we've said this many times. Disney beta tests this stuff. When they have a character or meet and greet or whatever, they're beta testing how that character does in a certain area. So the fact that Zootopia meet and greet has been there for so long shows you they're happy with the numbers it's getting. I mean, they're still there. You know what I'm saying? So we're probably going to get a Zootopia Land. Now, we might not get the exact same Zootopia Land. I mean, remember, there's going to be a sequel to this movie. We might get a version of this area that's more focused on the sequel. Which, and
then, I'm for sure. I mean, Zootopia was very successful. I'm for sure the sequel will be. The land in Shanghai is already proven to be a hit, but I also think too, now this could also just be Disney's kind of sweet talk, using, but I do think to kind of put this all into one mouthful, so to speak, Disney's most technologically advanced. Technologically advanced, immersive, and cutting-edge entertainment that's going to take cues from attractions around the globe. So, I mean, of what this is describing, they're more so utilizing technology that is not yet seen at the Disneyland Resort, particularly at DCA.
Yeah. And I'm so happy to see this. I am so happy to see this. Look, I love Disneyland. Of course I love Disneyland. It's Walt's park is the original Disney park. I mean, there's so much history there. You know what I'm saying? But DCA has for so long gotten the shitty end of this. Like they've gotten the shaft so many times. And, that brief time, from like 20 2007 to 2012, yes, DCA got some love. But before that, and even after 2012, it really hasn't. So it's really refreshing to see them focusing on DCA, bringing this park up to par, you know, and I've seen it so many times. Fans will blow, and we talked about it in a recent video, but I'll repeat it, where it's like fans kind of like treat DCA like it doesn't matter. You know what? Just throw anything in there. It doesn't matter because it's not Disneyland. That is the wrong mindset to have with this thing. This park sits in the shadow of Disneyland. You want this thing to be as good as possible, you know, and for people to sit there and go, yeah, just toss it into DCA. It doesn't matter. Theming doesn't matter over there. It does matter. And if it's a park that sits only feet away from Disneyland, I care a lot what's going on in that park. So I want this thing to be top notch. And the Japanese, you know, in Tokyo Disney Resort, they get it. You know what I'm saying? They make sure their second gate is very high quality, to the point where it's almost like surpassing their original park. It's kind of funny. Yeah. But you got to bring this park up to speed. And I'm sorry, you know what? And again, I know a lot of fans are probably going to get mad at me for saying this too. Pixar Pier, it looks cheap. It does. It looks cheap, and it's always looked cheap. And you know, Disney wants to get away from this kind of like this locals heavy market, which is why a lot of the Disneyland Forward stuff is going through, right? So they want to get into more tourism. I'm not saying, before people get all mad at me, I'm not saying they want to abandon locals, but they want to have more of a bigger percentage of tourists coming in than they are right now, right? So when you have an area like Pixar Pier that you can see from outside the park that looks like a giant carnival, you know, it doesn't feel like a world-class destination. They got to get that. Now, look, I don't know. This is that thing. Pixar Pier probably isn't going anywhere, to be honest with you, but it should. I think it would change the optics and the perceptions of that entire park if you made a really immersive area to replace Pixar Pier. And you can keep the body of water. You can have a Disney Sea style harbor that goes around it with heavily immersive rock work and what have you. You keep the body of water because, you know, World of Color is still very popular, but get rid of the roller coaster and the Ferris wheel and all the stuff. Obviously, you would have to have a new icon in that area. The Imagineers are very clever. I'm sure they can come up with something, but you got to get rid of that area, in my opinion, if you really want to be seen as a world-class resort. It's too much like a locals park when you have that. It feels like a Knott's Berry Farm. And again, I'm not talking crap about Knott's. I love Knott's. I think Knott's is a great park. But when you have a Ferris wheel and the coaster, it just feels like a locals thing. And they want more tourism dollars. So, you know,
do you feel, even back in 2018 when Pixar Pier became Pixar Pier, do you feel even at that time that was Disney kind of band-aiding that section of the park, just because as of right then and there, and even till now, they don't really necessarily know what to do with it? So it's basically, let's just slap an IP like Pixar to it, a brand that everybody knows and loves, and maybe that can buy us some time.
Well, I think it was partly that. But I think a big part of it, from what I've heard, and this is rumor, so I don't want to, like, you know, this isn't like etched in stone or anything, but from what I've heard, John Lasseter had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder around that era, because Pixar was starting to lose its shine a little bit. And because, not that Pixar was making bad movies at the time, but it was basically that, you know, Disney acquired all these shiny new objects. They just, they acquired Star Wars, they acquired Marvel.
So basically it was like Toy Story. It was like that brand new toy of Buzz Lightyear coming in, taking the place of Woody.
Right. Exactly. And Lasseter felt like, I think there was something going on with that, where it was like he saw that the part, like the other properties were coming in and kind of displacing Pixar. And I think the Pixar Pier thing was a way to sort of pacify him. That's what I heard. And again, this is a rumor, so I'm not going to come out here and say, oh my gosh, this is concrete 100%. I'm not saying that, you know, but that's what I heard for years, that's what happened. Because they were getting rid of Bugs Land to put Marvel in there, and Lasseter had a fit, and so what they did was they gave him Pixar Pier, and so it made actually the pier, in some ways, it made the pier better. I'm not going to say it was all around bad, because I do think Lamplight Lounge was a win for sure. I think the signage going into that land is beautiful now, much better than it was before. The little promenade area over there where the bands play and stuff, a huge improvement. There's areas of it that are much better, but then there's areas of it that took a huge hit. You know, Incredicoaster looked weird. The mid-century thing on the pier, that was weird. You know, even that that emotional whirlwind
Yeah,
thing.
Inside Out. Yeah.
It's all kind of mishmashed and stuff. Not to say there's not, glimmers of awesomeness in there, like Lamplight, but for the most part, it just seems like a hodgepodge mess more now than it ever has.
Now, do you think that they would ever consider changing that? I mean, because Toy Story Mania is also over there, and I don't really see them taking that out anytime soon. That's very popular, and that kind of solidifies that footprint of Pixar being in there, because if you take that whole entire area out, and even if you just keep Toy Story Mania, where would it then fit in with
a new thing?
A new thing, yeah.
That's the problem. One sec. Yeah, that's the problem too. You're right, because Midway Mania is hugely popular. So what do you do with that? If you go with my idea of a Disney Sea Harbor, you would have to have some theme that would sort of incorporate Midway Mania. Now you can maybe do the Toyville Trolley direction that Disney Sea has right now, which is a nicer version of Pixar Pier, basically. Maybe you can do something like that.
So if they did turn the pier into a harbor where you could still keep the water-based area, as you said, for World of Color, obviously Disney isn't just going to theme it to a breathtaking harbor. You know that they're going to throw some sort of IP, to it. What would you put in there as like an overall thing, whether they keep Toy Story Mania there or not? But like, in your mind, you see like a beautiful rock work, you see a harbor with the water, but what would you physically put in there that would draw guests into that, as speaking for tourism? Yeah,
I would if I'm going to make it a harbor or make it like a Toyville trolley park like they have over at Disney Sea, I would give it maybe take the Pixar out of it and give it a more inclusive in terms of like IP, like maybe like Disney Cove or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can have a bunch of different Disney IP in there, and then Mermaid across the way makes more sense. And then you open it to other IP. I think Pixar was very, very limiting. So I would do that. I mean, you can't make the whole pier one IP. I don't think. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that either. So you would say it, for them to keep Toy Story Mania because it's very popular. They could keep Mermaid over there. So would you lean more towards IPs of nature quality?
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be nature. I mean, I would just do IPs that, you don't even have to do nature, because look at Fantasy Springs, right? It's none of those properties have anything to do with nature, but they've kind of incorporated it into that Fantasy Springs motif,
Gotcha.
So I think that you can pick IPs that you can kind of put in there that not necessarily are nature, but you can kind of tie it into that.
But actually,
harbor.
That just in general, like I know that they may not do like a Fantasy Springs, they may do like a domestic version other than Tokyo, but that's basically sort of kind of like what they really should do is, as you had mentioned, just put like different IPs in one section, take out the pier. Can you imagine putting that rock work in with all those carved Disney characters?
Oh man, you can call it Hyperion Harbor, something like that, right? Yeah. Hyperion Harbor, and then it can just be a love letter to Disney and Pixar.
Animation Harbor,
whatever you want to call it, exactly. And then you can put any IP you want in there, and then you open up a whole world, literally, to any IP, and it's not just Pixar, And now Lasseter is no longer with the company; he's not coming back. So you don't have to worry about that whole thing. So if that was true, but if that was true, then you don't have to worry about him. So go in there and open that whole theme up to just Disney in general, give it a really fleshed out harbor, Disney Sea kind of vibe, and open it up to Disney IP as well, So that's what I would do personally, because you're right. You bring up a great point, George. You have Midway Mania in there, so you kind of have to keep some level of like pier vibes a little bit. Like waterside pier vibes, a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think they should really address that. But now, do I think that's going to happen anytime soon? No, I don't, because I think their focus is these Disneyland Forward things, right? So Avatar.
Well, in speaking of Disneyland Forward, I'm just going to go to the unpopular opinion, and I know how you feel about it, but just to say, hypothetically, they do make a Toy Story Land over in the Simba parking lot. Could they then move Toy Story Mania over there? And then that way you can clear out the whole entire pier.
You could.
Would you be okay with that? Would you accept Toy Story Land more for the sacrifice of Pixar Pier to put in something much better?
Yeah, probably, because you're getting a better. If we get like, but the pier though has to be like.
I mean, like completely. Yeah, I'm not talking about like a reskin or like decoration.
Like
I mean, completely like demolish from the ground up and
Disney
literally
Sea.
make like a Disney Sea quality Fantasy Springs area, as you said, with rock work. Make a harbor, different IPs in there.
Yeah, I'd be okay. I'd be more okay with that. Yeah, absolutely. Because one of my things too with Toy Story Land is that you have kind of a cheap area with Pixar Pier. And then you're going to go across the way to Simba, and you're going to have kind of another cheapish looking area. It's a little, you know what I'm saying? It's not really super ambitious, and something has to get replaced here. We got to get something amazing in DCA. Now, from what we hear from this, it seems like they are trying to up the ante quite a bit for this park. So, and also here's the other thing. Speaking of Toy Story Land, based on what this is saying, do you think that's even on the table anymore, though? Would you classify Toy Story Land as technologically advanced, immersive, or cutting edge?
No. The only way that they could is if they completely make a brand new, different type of Toy Story Land, something that we've never seen before in any of the Disney parks, where it's not just like that typical, okay, you're going to go into Andy's backyard,
right,
and play with his toys. You know, It's like maybe give us something where we actually get a full immersive walkthrough into Andy's room, but we're the size of a toy. So you see a ginormous bed and a big toy chest and everything. And you look up and you see a window going to the outside, or you go into Al's Toy Barn, or you go into the Sunnyside Daycare. Like have like those kind of immersive experiences. Than just, okay, you're walking into an outside and we're going to pretend it's his backyard and he has all his toys and play sets all odd. It's like, to me, that's just a little bit of a cop-out to kind of utilize a brilliant franchise like Toy Story and just kind of dilute it down to a land like that.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree. I think that we're going to get, in regard to this statement, I think they're referring to definitely anything they do with Pandora. Like when they're talking about, like with this thing, right? When they're talking about immersive, technologically advanced, a lot of that is going to be the Pandora stuff. I'm sure of it. But also Zootopia, though. If Zootopia is coming to DCA, that also fits under that category. From what our video was 6 miles tall, when he was kind enough to come on and show us the video he took when he was down there. I mean, that stuff looks amazing over there. In Shanghai. You know.
Could that be why they use Disney California Adventure and Disneyland Park in the one statement to still kind of throw us off? Because we all know as Disney fans, they're more so talking about Pandora. They're still not yet giving us the satisfaction that Pandora is definitely going into DCA. They won't do it. For some reason, I don't know why. There's something behind that.
There is something behind it. They always leave the door this open for an out. They always have a fucking out, and that drives me nuts. I read this thing, and I'm like, Disney, DCA, yes. And at the very end, Disneyland Park. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know what to make of that. Is it a typo? Like, what is it? Like, what are you talking about? Why can't they commit? Why can't they give us it clear? Like, just clearly say DCA and leave it.
Unless Avatar is not going in either of those parks. Could it be going into a third gate?
It's possible. A lot of fans poo-poo that idea, but I'm not so sure that's off the table. I'm really not sure that's off the table. Disney, that the third park would be something I could see them being interested in, because that would justify more occupancy at the hotels, all kinds of stuff that they would love to have.
I'm actually going to throw this as an idea too, because I noticed that even Disney did this with cross promotion and marketing with the Agatha of Harkness series. that's going to come on Disney Plus. Everyone thought that, Disney can't make up their minds. They keep on changing the title to this thing. But all along, it was Agatha.
There you go. All along, right? Exactly.
So
exactly.
could this be like a strategic marketing strategy that they just kind of throw it back and forth? No, it's DCA. Oh, or is it Disneyland? Is it DCA? So then when they come out on stage and they say, so everyone, we were kind of hinting to you, is it DCA? Is it Disneyland? Oh, wait a minute. It's neither.
It's a third park. Yeah, exactly. It is marketing, I think. I think you're onto something with that, because you're right. They're kind of like throwing the breadcrumbs out there, but leaving like this, like what they call plausible deniability, where they have a way out if they, and so they're kind of doing that whole thing. So then when D23 comes around, then they can make the full announcement. They don't want to, they want to throw the hints out there, but they don't want to give it to you like totally confirmed. But it might just be, total, like you said, a misdirection, and it's the third park all along. See what I did there? All along, just like Agatha.
Just like Agatha.
Yeah, I don't really know. This is a weird this is a weird statement.
Do you think that in an odd way, I don't know, I'm for sure it could be doable while the Eastern Gateway is under construction, when it starts actually June 7th, it's going to be coming up real soon. They can start that process, because the 30 days would be up from the time that the Anaheim City Council made that final vote to greenlight Disneyland Forward. But can you see them doing an extension to Disneyland Park and DCA simultaneously? Like one land and one land.
Typically, they don't like to do that because they like to spread out the return on investment. So what I mean by that is, like, you start to cannibalize yourself.
Right.
So if you open Zootopia and DCA, and then you open
Frozen
at Disneyland, you're cannibalizing. You know what I'm saying? So what you want to do is you want to open Zootopia at DCA and give that a few years to kind of like make gains for the resort. And then when the gains start to go down and drop, then you bring in Frozen to kind of bring it back up again.
Can you see two things being under construction at the same time, but at the same time they kind of pace themselves with one or the other, so at least one is already being worked on by the time the first one opens?
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, because didn't they do that at Walt Disney World with Cosmic Rewind and Tron? They were both being built congruently, but they both opened different times.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they're pretty close though, wasn't it? Was it within a few months of each other?
No. Tron opened, I think, a whole another year.
Oh, was it a year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they could do that. Yeah, they can maybe do the construction stuff and open them, in different years, and that would be smart. Yeah. But you're not going to get them opening in the same year.
Not in the same year around the same time. No, that'd kind of be a little bit cray.
Yeah, it would cannibalize, but it's interesting. I hope though what we're seeing here is indicative of a major DCA, shot in the arm, because that park needs it.
Yeah.
The only e-ticket we have is Radiator Springs Racers. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why I am still for the Simba parking lot and the Stitch parking lot and all that other, to just be expansion pads to the parks that already exist. I don't want to see that become the third gate. I mean, if it does become the third gate, great. I could understand, Mr. Webba's point on that, because all three parks would be literally right next to one another.
Right.
It'd be convenient. But again, then you're going to shoehorn and landlock DCA for any kind of future expansion, and that the park basically stands as is, and then you're going to have to start replacing shit.
Yeah. And then you only have so much that you can do, so much you can do. You can do Pixar Pier, you can replace that, but then what do you do? Right? What do you do then? So it's tough. Yeah, I would agree with you. And I think Bricky said the same thing in the video that we reacted to, where he was like, that park would be a really weird layout. You have a bunch of hotels like littered through it. It'd be kind of strange, Yeah. It's already hard enough to build a DCA expansion in the Simba lot with the Pixar hotel there. But if you build an entire park, now you're having to deal with weaving that park in and out of like Disneyland Hotel and stuff like that. When you have 75 acres down the street in Toy Story for another park, it just doesn't, what I'm saying?
That you already own.
that you already own. You know, it's zoned now for everything that you need. Just do that, you know?
Yeah.
Epic Universe is doing that same thing. They're building their Epic Universe down the street from the main resort. So, I mean, it's a doable thing.
Yeah. With a hotel in the park.
With a hotel in the park. And that's the kind of stuff I think Disney wants to do. When they do their third park, we might even see a hotel integrated into the park itself. Maybe it'll like surround the perimeter.
That might actually be, you know, based for like the 300-foot structure. Not saying that the actual hotel is going to be 300 feet, but if they wanted a big enough structure that could be put into that area along with the third gate, you know, then they have that option.
They have options over there. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see how it all pans out. I'm rooting for DCA. Come on, DCA. We need it.
Yeah, I'd say before anything else, they need to work on DCA first and foremost.
Yeah, exactly. You got to handle the Hollywoodland problem, which I think Hollywoodland will be handled before Pixar Pier. So I think that will probably get replaced and become Zootopia, almost certainly. You know,
you already took care of your first kid. You know, let's take care of your second kid before you get pregnant with your third.
Right. You got Disneyland over here, which is like the A+ student, right? But you got the kid over here who's like a C+. Let's send a tutor over to the C+ kid and get the C+ kid up to par. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, because DCA does not have any e-tickets. It's Radiator Springs Racers, and that's it. And some people will say Incredicoaster. I disagree. It's a good coaster, but it's not an immersive experience. It doesn't mark all the boxes for an e-ticket. Like, honestly, Indiana Jones Adventure is an e-ticket, right? Yeah. Radiator Springs Racers, e-ticket. What else? Rise of the Resistance.
I'd even say Mission Breakout.
Yeah, I would say Mission Breakout too. So compare those attractions and those experiences to that of Incredicoaster. There's no comparison. It's not an e-ticket. So what other e-ticket does DCA have? Well, maybe Soarin', maybe. Is that an e-ticket? I don't know.
It's popular, but
it's like a D+.
I wouldn't go out of my way to say, oh my God, this is the most immersive thing I've seen, you know.
And Grizzly River Run is not an e-ticket. That's probably another a D ticket, maybe, right?
Yeah.
C+ D ticket. So they're not really, what e-tickets are in that park besides Racers? None. They got to get at least another one or even two in there.
And that's why Racers is so congested all the time. That's why there's such a long wait time, because the demand for that ride is so popular, because it's basically, especially for families, especially for people who have young kids, you know, there's some kids that, you know, Mission Breakout is too scary for them, you know, Incredicoaster is too thrilling. You know, it's like, so what do you take them on? Yeah, Radiator Springs Racers. Okay, well, what else? You know, I mean, you could take them on, you know, Web Slingers. You could take them on Grizzly River Run. You could take them on the other attractions that are part of Cars Land. But I mean, there's nothing that can really say, wow, this is going to be a big e-ticket attraction that's going to get the people going through those turnstiles.
Right. It's DCA is full of like D tickets. They like Soarin' is probably a D+. Grizzly's like a D. Web Slingers is probably like a C or a D. Midway Mania, C or D. There's not a lot of e-tickets in that park.
Now, don't get me wrong, folks. I have no problems with C's and D's, but I'm just...
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. George loves D's. They can even be double, you know what I'm saying? That's how much he loves D's. But George, I want to thank you, brother, for coming on, talking DCA with me. This is encouraging news. Now, I'm still a little confused with the wording on it.
Oh my gosh, that's why they got all D's and C's in there. I mean, it's in the abbreviation, DCA.
There you go. Exactly. It's all DC and A tickets. Yeah, but George, if you could remind everybody where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There it is. Comment down below with all your thoughts on what this means. What does that paragraph or what was it? Sentence, actually, not even paragraph. Yeah. The sentence in the Disneyland Forward website. What does it mean? Is this indicative of a push for DCA, or is it more mind games from Disney with the weird wording? We would love to hear from you. Comment down below. Thank you so much for watching this episode of OG55.
세상은 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.